Viking Saga, Story 4, Vertical Bar Part 3, Jórvík. The city that bled for every mile in 869 AD, the war did not disappear. It mutated. The Vikings had taken York, Jórvík then, York now, North Yorkshire, England, and with it they took the idea of permanence. But the moment a conqueror decides to stay, every mile becomes a battlefield. Not one battlefield, 1,000. Jórvík, then York, now England. Jórvík became a weapon built from streets and fear. The river Ouse, York today, turned into a supply artery. Boats, grain, iron, timber. Bridges became checkpoints. Warehouses became law. Patrol routes became routine. The city looked calm because order was enforced before it could be questioned. But outside the walls, England fought the way you fight an occupier, by cutting time into wounds. The Trent Corridor, then River Trent, now England. Nottingham, now England. By late 869 and into 870 AD, the pressure tightened along the Trent Basin. Nottingham sat like a locked fist on the river routes. The Vikings needed that corridor for movement and supplies. The English needed it to contain them. Neither side could afford a decisive loss. The first real shock came not as a battlefield charge, but as a coordinated strike on movement. At dawn, a Viking supply column rolled along a narrow causeway. Carts, horses, sacks of grain, spare spear shafts. Guards walked on both flanks, shields loose, eyes on the tree line. Then the land itself opened. English fighters hit from multiple angles. Arrows first, then spears from reeds, then a sudden shield wall appearing where the road narrowed. It wasn't a glorious clash. It was a choke. Carts blocked the route. Horses panicked. Mud swallowed feet. The Vikings tried to form, shield to shield, but the English attacked the wagons, not the line. Grain spilled into the mud like sand through fingers. The Vikings pushed through with brutal discipline, but the message was carved into the day: you can hold a city and still be bled on the roads. So the Vikings escalated. They stopped moving like raiders and began moving like administrators with axes. Local crossings were fortified, watch posts rose, riverboats were chained at bends, patrols doubled. A village that fed English scouts was stripped, not burned randomly, stripped methodically. Food taken, tools taken, horses taken, leaders removed. The goal was obedience, not applause. But England answered with the only weapon that never runs out: endurance. The siege grind. Nottingham, now England. By 870 AD, Nottingham became a grinding cage. The Vikings pressured it without committing to a full suicidal assault. Palisades cut movement, boats controlled the river, rams tested gates at dusk, then withdrew. English defenders learned to hold walls, Vikings learned to starve time. Then came the night that turned pressure into hell. A storm rolled in, rain hammered wood, smoke flattened to the ground. Under that weather, the English attempted a breakout, not a parade, a desperate strike meant to burn stores and break the siege rhythm. Gates opened in darkness, and men surged out in a tight shield block, spears low, faces hidden by rain. The Vikings were ready. What followed was close, savage, and immediate. Shield on shield, bodies crushed in mud, spears snapping, axes rising only when distance collapsed. Torches fell. Fires began in the wrong places. Tents caught. Smoke filled the lanes between wagons. For minutes, the camp became a maze of flame and steel. This was not warrior glory. This was survival at arm's length. The English pushed hard, trying to split the camp and reach the stores. The Vikings countered with a wedge, dense, heavy, silent. They didn't chase, they sealed exits. They pressed the center just enough to lock the enemy in place, then hit the flanks when footing failed. In mud, a shield wall dies by inches. The breakout cracked. Men turned to run back to the gate. The gate narrowed. Rain made the ground a trap. The Vikings did not need to slaughter every man to win. They needed to stop the attempt. They did. The survivors slammed the gate shut behind them, leaving the field outside littered with torn shields and broken spears. Dawn revealed the cost. The Vikings held their positions, but the camp had burned in sections. Supplies were damaged, horses were lost, men were wounded. The siege continued, but now every day felt like debt. And that is the hidden truth of occupation. You can win the fight and still lose strength. Back to Jórvík. York now. News returned north. Leaders argued, not with shouting, but with arithmetic. How many men to hold York? How many to guard the Trent? How many to patrol the Midlands? Mercia then, English Midlands now. How many left to fight? This is where rule becomes more dangerous than battle, because rule creates questions that axes cannot answer. Who controls tribute? Who assigns land? Who punishes towns? Who owns the future? The Vikings minted coin, measured estates, appointed overseers. They tried to replace the old order with a new one, but every step towards stability created rivalry inside the conquerors. Warriors raised on motion were now chained to duty. Raiders became guards. Guards became administrators. The sea, once escape, became a supply line, and supply lines can be cut. Part 3 ends with a truth that hits harder than any spear. England cannot defeat the Vikings everywhere, but it can make ruling England feel like drowning. Slow, cold, inevitable. Future tease. Part 4. In the next part, the struggle shifts inside the Viking power itself. Rival ambitions collide, loyalty fractures, and the occupation faces its deadliest enemy. Not an English shield wall, but the weight of authority and the fight over who commands it.